Hi, I'm Jenny and I'd like to welcome you to episode 6 of the Owl About Yarn podcast. It's June 1st, it's raining quite heavily outside at the moment and it's definitely not June weather. It's cold. I've got my great big Gryffindor sweatshirt, zippy hoodie on because it's just not what it's supposed to be. Summer, it's June and I'm wearing a great big hooded, it's cold and windy. Anyway, moving on. Thank you very much for watching again if you have watched before. If this is your first time, I promise I'll be more positive later on in the podcast, but it's cold and it's wet and it's rainy and it's nearly my birthday, so it doesn't need to be rainy, it needs to be nice and warm and sunny. However, my great uncle has promised me that as of Wednesday it's going to be nice and hot, so hopefully next week when I podcast I'll have a happier story to tell. So this week's sections include works in progress, finished objects, out and about, plans and loose ends. No acquisitions this week. I think that's the first time since I've started podcasting, isn't it, that I've got nothing new to show you that I've acquired. But yeah, no, nothing yarny acquired this week. My lovely mum brought me back some presents from her holiday that she gave me this morning. But no, nothing to do with knitting or spinning this week. Also, another thing that I wanted to say is that I'm obviously relaxing into this whole podcasting thing a bit because you're starting to see me more and more as I usually am. So I just remembered to brush my hair before I started recording, but I haven't straightened it or done anything special. Bunged on a bit of lippy and a bit of mascara, which is a treat and you're honoured because I don't usually get that far before I go out the door. And I've got, as I say, my lovely Gryffindor hoodie on. I just felt like being cosy, so I didn't get dressed up. I'm very sorry. Oh, and I should also say, because I'm totally geeking out today, that I have my my zip's stuck. My Harry Potter mashup t-shirt with the Doctor, Girl in the Fireplace. It's one of my favourite t-shirts. I think I'll start showing you some more of those t-shirts over the next few weeks. Anyway, so let's get into the podcast. What did I say? The first one is works in progress. Only a couple this week, still the same old. Although, I did manage to finish one of my socks. So this is a Jaywalker sock by Grumperina. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I managed to finish that a couple of days ago. It's quite snug and it's quite difficult to get around your foot, so I'm glad that I didn't make it any smaller, but it's definitely going to fit me. It does fit, I've had it on my foot, but yeah, I can see why some people have found it a little bit snug, because if their socks are usually a bit tight, then these would probably be too small, because the zigzaggy pattern, I think there's something in that makes it really tight, and there's not so much give as the Hermione's Everyday ones that I was doing before. Anyway, one down, one to go. I am using, they're kept in my lovely Star Knits Exploding TARDIS bag, and I am using Knit 1 Crochet 2 tie-dye socks for that, and a 2mm needle. I always have to use 2mm for socks when they say 2 or 2.25, or, well, not 2, I'd have to go smaller again. I have quite a loose gauge, so I always have to go down sizes when I'm knitting, which can get a bit frustrating because they're tiny little needles. So the other work in progress that I am going to cast on the second sock this week, so hopefully I'll have some progress to show you next week. The second work in progress is my Tonks Togs jumper, which is a pattern from, I think is it Interweave Press, the unofficial Harry Potter Knits magazine. which one of my American friends was kind enough to post to me because you can't get it over here. I've done a fair bit, and I really like the feel of the yarn. So that doodad there, which I made, made myself a proper doodad. Can I get it to, there we go. That doodad marks where I was last week, so I've nearly doubled it, I think, since I last showed it to you. That's not too bad. I think I've got 2 full pattern repeats to go, approximately, until I get to the armpit, although it might be a bit more looking at it now, but I'll have a look, because I don't mind it blocking it widthways, but I don't want to try and block it aggressively lengthways, because I think it might just spring back, especially with the cables, because as you can see it's very cably, and I don't want to lose the length of it, because I don't like short jumpers. I like jumpers to come down to my hips, at least, if not over my hips. So I'd rather keep knitting a bit longer, do a couple more repeats, and I'm well on track for that. That's a project which I'm doing as part of the Harry Potter Knit and Crochet House Cup on Ravelry, and it's an OWL, which stands for Ordinary Wizarding Level, and it is supposed to be a 2 to 3 month long project. And I'm doing that and a pair of fingerless mittens, and you have to state your halfway point, and I said that my halfway point for the jumper and the mittens would be to finish the body and 1 sleeve of the jumper. So I'm well on target because I don't have to be there until the end of June, but I'm planning on spending a bit of time this next week catching up with that. And last week I did say I'd bring you and show you the bag that I made. So here it is. This is made from Sirdar Click DK, and it was just I think it's called Girlfriend's Market Bag. It was a free crochet pattern on Ravelry, and then as you can see I lined it. I actually double lined it so that you wouldn't see the seams, so it's a bag in its own right, the fabric bit inside. But I had some fat quarters which matched the yarn I'd picked out, so it made it really sturdy, and I lined the handle as well. And it's a great bag for taking to knit night because I can fit loads in it, and definitely more than a sweater can fit in there. So that's a really useful bag, but I think if I did it again I'd pick a brighter yarn, because this one, I think it's, I can't remember if it has a name. I've got in my head that it's called something like Seashore, because I look at it and I see the blues and the beiges and the browns, and it makes me think of the sea and the sand and shells and things like that. I could be making it up, but I had a ball of it and it fit in with the requirements of the challenge at the time, and so I did that. And as I say, I'm really pleased with it. Oh, actually there's another bag. Oh, excuse me, I need my cup of tea. There's another bag I'm thinking of making. There's a lady on Instagram, and her username is Crafts from the Kutch, and she lives in, I think she lives on the south coast, or somewhere south of London, but she's originally from Wales, because that's what drew my attention, because Kutch is very much a Welsh word. It means to cuddle and love on somebody and hug them, and but it's more than a cuddle, it's the lovingness of it. So I've got a really dry throat today. Anyway, I noticed that she's having a bag along for a lovely project bag made out of granny squares, and then I think that's lined. So I'm thinking of doing that because I've got so much acrylic in so many lovely bright colours, and it'd be perfect for a bag like that because it'll stand up really well to be chucked into the car and slung under the buggy if I take Erin out and want to bung my bag underneath it. Not that she's in the buggy very much anymore, but it'll also stand up to being walked on by said toddler, as well as regular use. So I'm thinking that I might give that a go. But I haven't crocheted very much. I don't know if I mentioned it. I had a problem with my hands. Well, I still have a problem with my hands. They thought it was carpal tunnel syndrome, but then the doctors decided it wasn't. And so I was literally gowned up, ready to go and have the operation on my wrists, and the doctor decided that it wasn't carpal tunnel. So nobody really knows what's wrong with my hands. But while I have no problem in knitting, crocheting makes them hurt after quite a short time. So if I do this bag along, because it's granny squares, I'll have to take it quite slowly and just do one a week or something of these squares and put them all together slowly at the end, which is a shame because I used to be quite fast at crocheting and I probably could have knocked the bag up in a couple of days all told, but hey ho, at least I can still knit and I can spin and I can talk to you, so it isn't all bad. So, just drinking regular tea today, nothing special, but it is in my favourite mug, which seems to make it taste nicer. This is my absolute favourite mug, which my family bought me one Easter with a chocolate egg in the top. And tea always seems to taste nice. Do you have any cups or mugs or anything like that where you know the drink is always going to be just as you like it? Well, this cup is it for me. If a cup of tea is made in this, I don't remember having a bad cup of tea in this one. So, there we are. Anyway, I went off track a bit there. I'm sorry about that. Where did I get to? So, right, that was works in progress. Next up is finished objects. I haven't got much to show you with this either. Last week I told you I was spinning some of my own merino because a lady from Italy had very kindly commissioned me to spin up this yarn, this fibre. Now I was really pleased. I'm just looking for a picture to show you because I haven't got it. I've wrapped it all up to post it. I was really pleased actually that she asked me to spin it because I hadn't had a chance to try that fibre out myself, other than just a scrap, but I haven't done a whole braid because I don't like taking from my shop stock too often. Otherwise I'm not going to ever have any profit at all, so I need to be a bit strict with myself. But she asked if I'd spin it for her and I said yeah, sure, and it was really, really nice. I'm definitely going to go and buy more of that fibre, hopefully sometime soon. It was 75% merino, 20% silk and 5% stellina, and it just feels so luxurious. It drafted beautifully. I divided it lengthways down through the whole braid into smaller widths, so it was almost like a chunky pencil roving before I started to spin it, rather than spinning from the whole braid, and I was able to get it very fine like that. So I'm learning all sorts of things. It's brilliant. Anyway, I finished that up and I soaked it and I thwacked it and I snapped it and it dried, and this is a picture. Oh no, well that's no good. Hang on, can I get it to... Oh, I'm sorry guys. I'll put a picture up at the end because that's completely gone. That's about as close as I can get, and that's rubbish. I was really pleased. I managed to get it nice and even. I think it's fingering weight. I got 408 yards for my 100 grams, which is roughly fingering weight if it's the same as commercial sock yarn, and it looks, when I wrapped it around a gauge, it looked to be about the right thickness, so I'm fairly confident that's going to match the yarn that she wanted it to match in order to make her shawl. And as I say, that's all wrapped up, and it would have been in the post first thing this morning, except there was a queue a mile long. Oh, I've never seen a queue like that in my post office. I went in, it's only a little shop, and they've got the post office counters at the back of this shop. It used to be just a card shop, but then the post office moved into there as well. So there are only two people who serve at any one time. Sometimes there's only one. And this queue was all the way to the door. So I backed out quite quickly and decided to go and do my food shopping first and come back. Because I thought, okay, they've only just opened, it's what, 9:30 or something. They're going to be busy from people who got things to post over the weekend and wanted to go and draw money out and whatever else in the post office on a Monday morning. Went, did my food shopping, came back, went back in, and the queue is still to the door. Obviously different people, I'd hope. They haven't been standing there for an hour and a half. But there must have been at least 15 people waiting to go up to these poor people, these two people at the front. And I'd got Erin with me, and she was in a bad enough mood as it was, because she's just overtired. She's been very excited having the boys home all last week on their holidays. And we had a reasonably busy weekend, so she just needed to get home, have some lunch and go to bed, which is where she is now. So I thought, no, I'll go up later on. I've got until 4:45 to get the parcels out, so I will go above and beyond and try for the third time in one day. Oh, to get to the post office. I'm lucky it's not that far away. I'm just hoping that the rain stops so that I can walk up there, because it really isn't very far. But if it's tipping down, I'm not going to make Erin walk up with it hurling down. Apart from anything, the parcels will get soaked through. So I'll have to drive up there, which will really irritate me. But I'll keep my fingers crossed that it passes and I can get up there about 4 o'clock, because it's usually quite quiet at 4. It's just before the final rush when there'll be another queue to the door with everybody trying to get things in before the post deadline of the day. Oh, I've gone off topic again, I'm so sorry. So anyway, I've wrapped it all up and that's ready to send, so I couldn't show you it in person, and I'll put a picture of that yarn at the end of the podcast. It's a lovely turquoise with all these sparkles going through it. My husband took one look at it, and I think I've mentioned before that our daughter Erin, who's just turned 3, is very much into all the Disney princesses at the moment, and he took one look and he said, that looks like Elsa's dress. So I've named it Elsa, the colourway, because it didn't have a name before. And then my other finished item, spinning wise, is my own dyed merino. Do you remember when I went to John Arbon's mill open day? No, it wasn't then. Or was this Wonderwool? Oh dear. I think this was Wonderwool. I bought samples. I did both times anyway from John. I bought some samples of the fibre so I could work out what I wanted to stock in my shop. And I bought some 100% merino. Well, I dyed it up and it came out like this, which I was really pleased with. So this is the rest, this is what I've got left of what I dyed up, and there's about 150 grams left. But I spun it up and I 2-plied it, and here it is. So that's better colour. I got 209 yards for 100 grams. So what's that going to be? Heavier than double knit worsted weight? It's not Aran. Maybe, yeah, it's a little bit heavier than a double knit, but yeah. So I was really pleased with that. The barber poling was really nice. I've got a bit left on one of the bobbins as well. I'm going to put that aside and maybe blend it in with some ends of other bobbins and have a bit of an experiment, a bit of a Frankenskein, I think I've heard them called before. So that was my other spinning finished item. That is going to be a gift, so that's going in the post quite soon to somebody, and I hope that the person who's getting it likes it. I'm going to spin myself up some, maybe this month, maybe not, I'll see how it goes time-wise. But yeah, I really like that, how that turned out, so I'm going to spin some for myself as well. And then the only other finished items I've got to show you are 2 more mini baby socks. That one, to be fair, I only weaved the ends in this month, so that's this week, I mean, so that's not a lot, and that was actually today. But can you see sparkly And these are all these mini socks are made with my own sock yarn, Owl About yarn. This is Sparkle Owl, which is 75% merino, 20% nylon and 5% stellina. I think this is the evening gowns colourway. And then this one, I don't think I've got any of this in the shop at the moment. Yeah, that's nearest. It's quite dark, it's purple and sort of navy purple. And I don't remember what I called that colourway. But if I dye some more, I will tell you. But this one was popular a couple of years ago, this colourway. But I had a little bit left because I made something or other with it. So that's a little mini sock to add to the collection. So I've got 3 now. And that is all of my knitting and spinning for today. So the next section on my notes, I'm not really with it today, am I? I'm really sorry, I didn't sleep very well last night. I had to set an alarm this morning. I don't usually set an alarm because my husband usually wakes me up, and but he wasn't there this morning, so he couldn't wake me up. And I don't sleep well when I have alarms because I think subconsciously I'm thinking I'm going to miss it. So I just wake up about every half an hour to see that I haven't missed it, and I haven't missed getting my oldest son off for his school bus and my younger son off across the road to the school, and I should trust the alarm and then I can sleep. But anyway, I'm sure I'll sleep fine tonight. Where was I? Out and about. Yes, last week was half term. Sorry, I need more tea. Oh, my throat has gone stiff and scratchy again. I think I'll just hold on to it. Yeah, last week was half term, and my 2 boys were home for the week, and we didn't have major plans because well, I didn't really know what the weather was going to be doing. We don't often make big plans for school holidays unless we're actually going away on holiday, and we hadn't planned anything like that for this half term. So at the beginning of the week and the end of the week before, the weather forecast was awful. It was going to rain all week, and I really thought we'd maybe manage to have lunch out 1 or 2 days, if that, and spend most of the week staying in watching movies because it was going to be such appalling weather. But it turned out that it was really nice. So at the weekend we went to Roath Park, which I showed you pictures of last week, with the clock tower and the all the swans and everything. So we had a good walk around there. In the afternoon then we went down to Cardiff Bay and had an impromptu dinner out, which was really, really nice. We went to Bellini's, a nice Italian restaurant, and then we went to Cadwallader's for pudding, which is the local ice cream makers, and that was really good. Having an ice cream walking around the bay, we really enjoyed that. And then we went to Kevenon Park on Bank Holiday Monday. Kevenon Park is a sort of wild arboretum in the north of Cardiff, and it has a lot of rhododendron bushes and, well, rhododendron trees, all different colours, and of course this time of year is when the rhododendrons are blooming. So I've been aiming to go this time of year for about 5 years, and I always miss it. There's always something happening so that I can't get there this time of year, or I completely forget. And but this year I remembered, and so when Rob, my husband, when he said, did I want to go for a walk on Bank Holiday Monday, I said, yeah, let's go to Kevenon Park. And I'm so glad we did, because it was just beautiful, just stunning. I took so many pictures for colour inspiration, for dyeing, because the vibrancy of the pinks and the purples and the creamy white. I mean, some of these rhododendrons, because they're clusters of blossoms all on the one head, if you just cut one of those off, you'd have a bouquet for a bride. They're just beautiful. Oh, I was in my element, walking around. And the kids loved it. The boys loved it when we used to go before, because they used to play Indiana Jones there. There are all these little paths that dart out to the left and the right, up the hills and around the backs of the trees and everything, so they can run off exploring and feel like proper adventurers. This time it changed a little bit because Erin was joining in and decided that they were playing princesses and castles and things like this. They didn't really get to do their Indiana Jones bit this time. And there's a sort of ruined, well, it's not much bigger than a garden shed really, but it actually looks as if it had 2 rooms, whatever it was. This little brick-built cottagey sort of a place up a hill at the back of the park. And so that was Erin's castle, and she was the queen, and everybody had to ask permission before they entered. And Ben was the monkey, the castle monkey, so he was bouncing about at the back. And Jack was acting as if he was all too grown up at 14 to be playing these games. So he was wandering off and looking at paths going up the other way. But yeah, it was really nice. It was a really nice walk. So that was on Monday. On Tuesday, what did we do on Tuesday? I don't think we did anything on Tuesday. Wednesday I spent the day with my sister-in-law and my nieces, which was lovely. They came here and it was gorgeous, glorious weather, so we had a picnic outside and the kids all played outside for hours and it was just lovely. It was really, really nice. And then Thursday I woke up and I just felt like going out somewhere, and it doesn't happen to me very often. I'm usually quite a home bird. I quite enjoy just a gentle walk somewhere like Kevnon Park or Roath Park or somewhere like that, but I don't usually think, yeah, come on, let's go out for the day. So I grab it with both hands when I get the opportunity. And I woke up and I said to Ben, my younger son, who's 11, I said, oh, do you fancy an IKEA breakfast and then we can go out for the day? He was like, yeah. So he went and woke his brother up. And we all got dressed and got out the door, and we were down at IKEA for when they opened, had their bargain breakfast, went around and picked up a couple of bits from IKEA. Actually I got a couple of bits for when I start doing shows, for display, which I thought would be really good, because especially the first few shows that I do, I don't want to be spending a lot on display because I'm not going to have a lot to spend. I want to spend all my money on building up my stock. But I don't want things just to be in piles on the tables either, because I don't know, I don't feel like rootling through when somebody's very neatly stacked sort of triangles of skeins of yarn and things like that. It makes me feel as if I'm disturbing the symmetry. So it needs to be on shelves or something, you know, so that you can have a good look. But anyway, I managed to find some things that are going to be really good for displaying my wares when I get to the shows. So that was good. We got a clock for Erin's room. And oh, I tell you what else we got. Have you seen these beads? You get them. These, look. These. I thought they'd be a brilliant idea. To be fair, they were. I mean, Erin's had a lot of fun with them. You get these little boards. She calls them prickle boards. And you put the beads on them and make designs. And she got 4. There's a big white square one as well that's bigger than any of these. You make your designs on them, and then you put some baking paper over the top and you iron it, and then the beads sort of melt together so that you get they all fuse to make the thing permanent, the design. And I've done one and Ben's done one. I did one just to show her how it worked, because I don't think that she quite understood what it was that we were trying to do. And they are a bit fiddly, they tend to quite easily be knocked out of place and that, so she was getting a bit frustrated. And then Ben did one, he did a space rocket one, because he sat by her for hours. I think it must have been Friday. He sat beside her, bless him, for hours, just so patient with her. He really is really patient with her, my Ben. And she was picking up the same half dozen and putting them on her board, and then taking them all off again, or knocking them off. So he made this one just for fun, I think, just because he was stuck there sitting next to her. But she hasn't managed to do anything herself. But what she has managed to do is every now and again she'll be going through, I'm not actually going to do this, I've spent enough time clearing these up, and she'll be digging in and trying to find the colour that she wants, and then she'll give it a really great big stir and they'll just fountain everywhere. Oh, you'd think there are millions of them. I mean, there must be thousands in there, but when you're on the floor under the table picking them all up, it feels like millions, trust me. But it is slightly addictive, and I keep having ideas in my head thinking, oh, well, I could do this. Oh, well, I could do a star on that circle board, or oh, I could do an owl on the square board, or so I might have to have a little play with her later when she gets up. I might have to sit down at the table and say, come on, let's come and play with the beats. So Mummy gets to have a play as well. Anyway, IKEA. I sidetracked again. We went round IKEA, and then I felt like going off and going somewhere else. So we nipped to another shop and picked up some rolls and some cheese and some strawberries and bottles of water and that. And we drove off down to Llantwit Major, to the beach. Llantwit Major is about, I don't know, 25 miles away, I suppose, down the coast. So you've got Cardiff, and then if you go left on the map, you've got Penarth and then Barry, and then after Barry is Cardiff Airport and then Llantwit Major. And we went to Llantwit Major, and it's only a stony beach, it's not a sandcastle beach, and it was a howling wind, freezing cold. But despite that, we all had a fantastic time. We sat in the car and ate our picnic because we were able to park right by the seawall. And then the kids all got out, and Erin found herself a stone that she really liked for me, and a stone for Daddy, and a stone for her. So we ended up putting them in the boot and bringing them home. And I think she's going to paint them. That's going to be a craft exercise at some point soon. And it was so sweet because the stone that she brought me was actually heart-shaped. And I'm choosing to believe that she saw that it was heart-shaped and thought, I'm going to give that to my mum because I love her, rather than she picked up a random stone and thrust it at me. I like my reasoning better. So anyway, that was a really, really lovely day. And we were out for most of the day, I think. I think we got back about 4, and we'd gone out first thing in the morning. It was quite a long day for Erin. So she was tired, she slept on the way back, and was a bit grumpy when she got home, but she did have such a nice day that it was worth a little bit of grumpiness, and she made up for it with early bed, so all was well that ended well. And then Friday, what did we do on Friday? I honestly don't remember. I'm sure we did something on Friday. But Saturday, I took Jack down to the bay, because backtracking slightly, earlier in the week I managed to get Davis Cup tickets for the semi-final between Great Britain and France, which is going to be in the middle of July in London. Ben is a really keen tennis player. He goes to tennis lessons, and he's a member of the Lawn Tennis Association because he's a member of his tennis club. And last year we managed to go to Wimbledon, which was fantastic. So we were thinking of going again this year, because we were thinking, well, it's his last year of primary school, and I know that I'm not going to want to take him out of secondary school at all for things like that. But they're not going to be doing a lot by the end of June, so I don't mind if I take him out for a day for Wimbledon. But they didn't have the best selection of tickets in their club this year because they're all allocated to the clubs. But then I noticed the Davis Cup tickets were going to be going on sale, so we decided to try for those instead, and we managed to get some for the Sunday, which will be the deciding day if it's a close call. Hopefully GB win, but I think there should be some good matches. And Jack's not at all bothered, so he wasn't feeling jealous or left out or anything, but I said to him anyway that if he picked something that he'd like to do, that we could do that. And he said he'd like to go back to the Doctor Who experience, which is only just in Cardiff Bay, so it's not far at all for us, it's just 10 minutes down the road. And I said, well, that's fine, that's easy to do. So I checked with Rob, and we weren't doing anything on Saturday. So I booked the tickets, and off we went down on Saturday morning. We were there for when that opened at 10 o'clock, and we went in, and it was really, really good, because we went a couple of years ago. Matt Smith was still the Doctor, and they've changed the initial walk-through part. There's a walk-through part, which is a bit of an adventure that you get to take part in, and then you go into the exhibition hall where they've got all the props and costumes and things like that. They've got a Dalek that you can get inside and wiggle the egg whisk and the plunger thing. So yeah, but they've got more exhibition stuff as well, and they've changed the beginning, and I'd forgotten quite a lot of it, to be honest, so it was really nice to go again. And last time we had Erin with us as well, so it was a bit more rushed, but this time we got to take our time, and we spent as long as Jack wanted just wandering around and looking at everything. And then we came out and bought a couple of bits and pieces in the shop, had a nice lunch together, just me and him, and then we came home. So that was a really nice day, and I took some pictures, and I tried to get Jack to take some daft pictures with me, like, you know, standing beside the Weeping Angels and stuff, and he did a couple, but then he got fed up because he was 14 and, you know, he grew back up again, so he wouldn't humour me with that. But no, it was really good. So I'd recommend it if you're a Doctor Who fan and you happen to be in Cardiff. It's worth a look. It's not the biggest thing in the world. It's I mean, if you've been to the Harry Potter studio tour, it's nowhere near. But then you wouldn't expect it to be as big as that, because it's not had all the sets and you know, the permanent sets that the Harry Potter films had. But I think that they've done well with what they've got, and then they have some exclusive merchandise in the shop if you're into that sort of thing as well. And they've got loads of posters and t-shirts and prints and canvas prints and all sorts of collectibles. So yeah, but anyway, that was a really nice trip. It'd be interesting to see what they change by the next time we go. That is, if it stays, because I think originally it was only supposed to be there for about 5 years. And it's got to be coming near to that now, I would have thought, because I'm sure it was not long after Matt Smith took over as the Doctor that it opened up. But anyway, I really am drifting off today, aren't I? I'm not staying on track at all. I'm moving on. Plans, crafting plans. Back to crafting. My goodness, I'm actually going to talk about wool. I want to carry on with my Tonks Togs jumper. I'm aiming to get to the arm separating point by the end of this week, by the next time I talk to you. So I'll plug on with that. The cables aren't really that bad. I don't need to look at the charts because I can read the knitting and I know which cable goes where, and there are only two, one goes one way and one goes the other, so it's just a case of looking at the last one that I did and working out which one comes next. So yeah, I want to finish the body on that. I am casting on a new jumper, if I can just pull this up, the Dragon Lace Pullover by Angela Hahn. Can I get this to show you? Can I? Come on. No, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But it's knit in DK weight on, well, the pattern calls for 3.5 and 3.75mm needles, so I'm not quite sure what size. I'll do a gauge swatch, I think is the safest bet. I might have to do 3.25 and 3.5, or even 3mm and 3.5. We'll see. I want to cast that on this week. I'm aiming to finish that by early to mid-July. but I think there's quite a lot of stocking stitch. The whole of the front is plain, and then it's v-neck, and then there's the only detailing, if you like, is the lace on the back, which will end up looking like a dragon, which is going to be quite cool. And I'm going to be using Sirdar Snuggly DK in a lovely dark red colour to do that. So it should be a really snuggly jumper, hopefully. For days like today, when it's just miserable and grey and a little bit cold and you need something, you can't just have your t-shirt, but you don't necessarily want your winter jumpers. So the Tonks Togs is going to be when you want a winter jumper, a properly warm one, and this one will be a bit of an in-betweeny sort of a day, sort of a one. And I do have some spinning plans. It's the first of the month, which means in the Harry Potter Knitting and Crochet House Cup on Ravelry, that I may have mentioned once or twice, new classes go up today, because everything is in that. To earn points, or the full points, you have to start and finish it within the same month, unless it's one of the longer term projects. So I've been waiting until today to spin this, and I've divided it all up. So it's Sarah's Texture Crafts, oh bother, I don't remember what the fibre was. Is it merino? Anyway, I saw the colourway on Instagram the day before Wonderwool when she put a picture of her stall up, and I said, oh, I've got to have that. So I went straight to her stall when I got to Wonderwool and picked it up, and right, yep, I need this one, give me this one. It's Blueface Leicester. There's 100 grams, and it's a one-of-a-kind colourway, so I'm glad I got it, because it's lovely. And this is one of the mini braids, but it's got all the colours in it. So what I've done is I divided it in half lengthways, and this is a half of it, so that's 50 grams, and I did weigh it and checked, that's definitely 50 grams. So I'm going to spin this as it is, and then I divided the other half into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mini braids, and I'm going to spin them up consecutively and then 2-ply it, because I've heard about this technique for barber poling and a little bit of solid in the middle, and I think it sounds really interesting, and I've not tried it yet. And look, it's really bouncy. I think this BFL is just going to be beautiful to spin up, and I haven't been disappointed by any of Sarah's fibres before, so I'm confident that this will be lovely as well. And that is going to be my treat. I need to do one more pattern repeat on my Tonks Togs, and then I can start that. So this evening I will be watching the second half of the BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice back from 1995, because some people on Ravelry have got me watching that. They kept on and on about Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy, and last night I gave way and I watched the first 3 episodes, which is the first half of the adaptation. So the second half will go on tonight. Old school, it's VHS, I haven't even got it on DVD, it's still on video, and amazingly I've still got a video player, so I'll be able to watch that tonight now. I think that's it. So I haven't got any other knitting planned, although I have promised Erin that if she's good I'll start her Bon Bon Bunny, and that'll be from that very pink, bright pink wool that I showed you last week. It's all wound up and ready to go, I've just got to dive into it. I think I'm going to be using a 3mm needle for that to keep it nice and tight, even though it's quite a thick yarn. I'm going to try 3mm so that the stuffing doesn't come out, because I think that bunny's going to be well loved when it's finished. So it's going to need to stand up to some tough 3-year-old hugs. Oh, I'm going to have a dyeing day tomorrow. I've got to, I'm on a deadline now. I've got to get my fat fibre samples ready and sent out, otherwise they're not going to make it across the pond in time. So the theme, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you what the theme is, but I've gone looking for inspiration pictures this time because I didn't have anything clear in my head. I'll tell you what the theme is nearer the time when I show the yarn, the fibre. I went looking for inspiration pictures and I found a beautiful picture of a Hawaiian sunset with some silhouetted palm trees in black, and then there's reds and purples and blues, really, really pretty. So I've got 1 kilo of Polworth. I don't think I'm going to dye it all up, because I don't like the thought of having a lot left over. If I dyed say I dyed the whole kilo up, and then I had 7 braids for the shop and 3 braids got split up to send off for samples, I'm still quite a small enterprise, and I could be left with those 7 braids for I don't know how long. So I'll probably only have maybe 3. But what I will do is I will keep careful notes of the recipe, so that if anybody's interested, I'll be able to recreate it fairly exactly. If anybody wants more about fibre, and that, as I say, that's going to be on Polworth. It'll be the first time that I'll be dyeing Polworth after I got the kilo of it from the John Arbon mill, so I'm looking forward to that. It feels lovely, this fibre, so I really hope I can do it justice. And that's it for my crafting plans for this week. On to loose ends. I'll be rounding up in a minute. I this week started running. Now, one of my favourite catchphrases that I say to the kids when they want me to go somewhere fast is that I'm built for comfort, not speed. So this is quite a big deal for me. And since school, I've not been a fan of exercising at all. I enjoy tennis, but you've got to pay to play tennis, and it can get quite pricey, so it sort of puts me off. I only need somebody to play with, obviously. It's not something you can just pick up and go off and do on your own. We don't have a swimming pool very near to us now. We used to have one within walking distance. I haven't used that for a while anyway. And I used to enjoy cycling, but since having the problem with my hands, I can't really use the bike very much because the vibrations aggravate the problems in my hands and my arms. So I decided that if I was going to exercise, I needed to just get on and do it and stop being a big wuss about it, and face up to the fact that when you're grown up, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do. So I decided to give this Couch to 5k plan a go. And but I know that I'm very much the couch end rather than anywhere near fit. So I did a couple of pre-Couch to 5k runs with my husband last week in the evenings, and we did a few intervals of jogging, mainly walking, but a few sort of minutes and half minutes of running as well. And we got proper trainers. We went and got fitted with proper trainers, and I bought myself some new jogging bottoms and that to wear, so that I'm all kitted out properly. So I need to do this now. I've spent money. I need to put time and energy and invest in this now. And then I downloaded a podcast from, I think the website is c25k.org, and he has a link to all sorts of resources for doing this sort of running. And so he had a link to a series of podcasts, one for every week of the plan, that you can download and listen to as you run, and there's music in it, and also he tells you when to walk and when it's time to run, which I find really good, because if I look at my watch I get dispirited because it seems to go so slowly, and with this I could just ignore it and listen to the music and keep going. And so it was a 5-minute walk, a brisk walk to warm up, and then there were 8 intervals of running a minute and walking for a minute and a half, and I managed to run for 5.5 of the 8 minute runs, which I know it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than I thought I would do, and I can work up to it. It might take me 2 or 3 weeks to do each week of this plan, so it might be sort of 27 weeks rather than 9 before I'm running 5k, but I want to give it a good go. I want to try at least. So I'm due to go out for another run either tonight or tomorrow. We'll see. If it's tipping down with rain, I might postpone it till tomorrow. And we do have an exercise bike in the front room, so I can do a bit of cardio knitting tonight while I'm watching Mr. Darcy. That'll be fine. But what I wanted to say was that when I did my first, I think it was my first run when I went out with Rob, I took a picture of myself and put it on Instagram and put a little bit of an explanation about what I was doing and why I was doing it and why it was such a big deal to me, rather than it just being a run-of-the-mill thing to do. And the support I got was amazing. I got so many kind comments from people saying, oh, you know, well done, you know, you're doing a good job, you don't think about how far you've got to go, you know, it's amazing that you're making a start, it's really positive. The one that really stuck out with me was the one who said, well, just think of it this way, you're lapping everyone who's sitting on the sofa at home, which made me feel quite good. So I keep thinking that now. When I was doing my run on Saturday evening, when I felt like I was going to keel over and die, and felt as if everybody I passed in the street was just staring at my red sweaty face and thinking, oh dear Lord, I thought, well, at least I'm lapping everyone who's sat on the sofa watching whatever's on the TV at this time of night now. So yeah, I felt a bit better for that. But yeah, thank you so much if any of you are watching. Those kind comments, they've really picked me up and they've really made me think that I could actually maybe do this. So I'll keep you posted, but maybe not until I get to week 2, which could be a while, because I want to get to feeling confident about this whole week 1 business and these 8 intervals of running and walking. Oh, before I start week 2. Oh dear. Anyway, big news. I have now got a Ravelry group. A few people asked me. I wasn't going to bother because there seems to be so many podcast groups on Ravelry, and I almost felt like I was intruding by going and making a group of my own. But a few people asked, and so I have answered, and I have made a Ravelry group, which is of course Owl About Yarn, and you can find me over there. Please come over and introduce yourself. I'll be putting the show notes in the threads in the group, in the discussion threads in the group, as well as some pictures and stuff. There's a thread for you to post finished objects made out of yarn or fibre that you bought from me. I will post any details of giveaways or discount coupons or anything like that in there as well. So you never know, it could be worth your while to be a member. Come over and join us. It's lovely. Without very much publicity, we've managed to somehow get 46 members in less than a week, which is quite incredible to me. So you're all lovely people, and I love you all for joining. Thank you. Oh dear, you make me feel as if I'm building up this lovely community, and I just want to have this knit night now and have everybody over to my house. But I mean, even though just those 46 people, that would be quite a full house, wouldn't it? But yeah, but speaking of discount code, my birthday's coming up in a couple of weeks, and I think there might be a nice discount voucher for the shop to celebrate, because I don't know, I'm not feeling very excited about my birthday this year. It's not so much getting older, I just not feeling very excited about it. I'm going to be 36, and my 11-year-old son will swear blind that I'm going to be 29 because he's very well trained. But yeah, I think I might throw a discount voucher out to celebrate, so keep an eye on Instagram and Ravelry, and I'll mention it here when I decide on that. So I think that's it. I think my rambling is finally going to be over for another week. So, as I've said before, we've got a Ravelry group. I'm Jenster79 on Ravelry, but the group is called Owl About Yarn. You can find me everywhere else, Instagram, Twitter, WordPress and Etsy as Owl About Yarn. Thank you ever so much for sitting with me through all of my rambling and my dry throat and my cup of tea and all of my week's news. And I'll look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great week. Bye bye.